and welcome to episode 11 of The Smallest Thing. I'm Lisa Manterfield. This is now the third month of lockdown and of my experiment in podcasting. I hope you're enjoying The Smallest Thing and the behind-the-scenes chit-chat I offer every week. I am quite literally creating this project alone, in my closet, so I'd love to get some feedback from you to help me improve the show. I'll tell you more after the episode, but first, it's time for Em to put her plan into action. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of The Smallest Thing. Welcome to the serialized audiobook, The Smallest Thing, written by Lisa Manterfield, read for you by Charlie Sanderson.
Chapter 11. As soon as the summer twilight dims to grey, I go out through my bedroom window and make my way to Cucklet Delph. Near the top of the hill, I take a last look back at the only place I've ever called home. I don't know when or if I'll see it again. For a moment, the fear of what lies ahead roots me to the spot. I search the faint outline of houses until I find Deb's. I wish she could have come with me. Salt and Pepper. We're supposed to always be together. But we both understand that she wouldn't have made it. She gave up her own chance of freedom to help me secure mine. I have to keep moving, not only for myself but to make sure her decision wasn't for nothing. I tuck in against the rock and wait for the guard to make his pass toward the crags. According to my reconnaissance, he'll pass back this way in about 6 minutes, and then I'll have 11 minutes while he makes his pass down toward the lane and back. 11 minutes to get myself over the stream, through the short open stretch at the bottom of Cucklet Delph, and over the crags to freedom. I have the feeling it's going to be the shortest 11 minutes of my life. I reach for my phone, then I remember I don't have it. All I can do is trust that Ro will be there waiting for me. I take a minute to gather myself together. I can't let my emotions get in the way like this. If I look back at all I'm leaving, I'll never have the guts to go. I have to keep looking forward, to my immediate future and no further. There'll be plenty of time for looking back and having regrets, and for building a new life, but not if I don't do what I need to do right now. The guard makes his return pass and, once he's out of sight, I make my way down the embankment toward the river. I keep glancing over my shoulder, waiting for someone to see me. I half expect Aidan to have followed me, trying to be helpful. If he does, my whole plan is shot. At the edge of the stream, I take one last look over my shoulder to check that the coast is clear, and then I wade in. It's not until the water runs over the tops of my boots that I realise I've made a stupid mistake. I'll have to walk in wet boots, which will undoubtedly bring me a slew of problems, from blisters to boot rot. But I don't have time to take them off, and I certainly don't have the luxury of sitting on the opposite bank to put them back on. If anyone sees me outside the cordon, I am toast. About halfway across the river, the most amazing feeling comes over me. I don't know where it comes from, but I'm grateful for it. A sense of determination fills me, along with the absolute knowledge that I can do this. I have a plan and resources, and I have my wits. Most of all, for the first time in my life, I have real courage. Yes, I am going out into the unknown, but suddenly, I am not afraid. I wish Deb could see me now, because I'm sure she'd be proud of me. My newfound courage suffers a momentary waver when I climb out of the river and onto the opposite bank. Another first for me. I am breaking the law. I am a fugitive. And as such, I need to run, right now. I hoist the straps of Dad's backpack onto my shoulders and secure the belt around my waist. Steeling myself, I take a deep breath, pick a direction and go. There's a silhouette of a clump of trees ahead of me. I dash toward it, hoping to be hidden as soon as possible. Even though it's almost August, the summer nights still don't get fully dark, and tonight the moon is bright. I'll have to stay hidden as much as possible, but at least it will help me pick my way through the undergrowth until I can get a clear shot of the terrain and, hopefully, Ro. I'm not even a handful of steps from the river when a dark figure steps out from the trees. My heart flutters because I know that Ro is here. I can't keep the relief from spilling over my face in a goofy smile, but when I turn to run toward him, I see it isn't Ro. It's Will. Ro's older brother is a thicker, darker version of Ro. Swarthy is what my grandma would have called him, but not in a good way. He has a shotgun slung casually over one shoulder, and a thick rope swings from the other. A red bandana covers his nose and mouth, making him look like a Wild West outlaw. I square my shoulders and push my hair casually back. "Hey, Will," I say, trying to keep my voice level even though my heart is thudding against my voice box. My brain scrambles to piece together why Will is here. Has Ro recruited help? Is this Will's way of sticking it to the establishment or whatever statement he needs to make? But as I get close enough to see Will's eyes, it becomes very apparent that he is not here to help. His face is set in a tight, emotionless expression, and beneath his dark brows his stare is cold and hard. That look stops me in my tracks. "Going somewhere?" he asks. His voice reminds me of Ro's, but it's deeper and harder. I have no ally here. "Where's Ro?" I ask. "Stood you up." Will's tone is mocking. "Bet you didn't tell your old man about this either, eh?" "Ro told you I'd be here." My stomach lurches with the thought that Ro hasn't simply had a change of heart, he's deliberately recruited help to stop me. "Got cold feet and asked for some brotherly advice. I gave him some." I can't believe Ro would really be so stupid as to go to Will for advice on something as important as this. But I refuse to be held back now I've come this far. Even though my legs weaken beneath me, I hold my gaze firmly on Will. "I don't want any trouble," I tell him. "Just let me pass." Will takes a step forward, seeming to expand in front of me like a brick wall. He hefts his shotgun almost casually, but I've seen him carry a brace of dead rabbits in the same way Alice might swing a basket of flowers, as if life is something that can be picked or discarded at will. The threat that his gun could also fell me is enough to hold me at bay. "Sorry, Siddle," he says. "Can't do that." "I'm not going to hurt anyone, Will. I'm not sick and I'm not dangerous. Look at me, I'm healthy. But I'm not going to be if I stay here, so just let me go." Will shakes his head. "Can't take that chance, I'm afraid." Fury builds inside me, but I have to keep it in check. If I lose it now, I'm never going to win this lug over. And if I'm going to win him over, I need to do it soon, before that guard comes back into sight. "If you were in my situation, Will, you'd do the same. Think about it." He hesitates for a moment, and I think maybe I've struck a nerve. But then he raises his gun and points it straight at me. I've never looked into the barrel of a gun before. In a kind of slow motion, artistic visual, I picture the twitch of Will's finger and a tiny brass bullet spinning down the barrel. It bursts out into the daylight and takes a clear, straight path toward my head. I even have a second to wonder what it would feel like to be here and then gone. Would I feel anything? Would I know it was over? Or would the lights simply go out as I closed for business forever, like Andy Hawksworth's shop? If I wasn't completely convinced that Will was capable of pulling that trigger, I'd find this intriguing. As it is, I'm too terrified to breathe. I stare Will in the eye until all I'm aware of is his eyes and mine. The rest of me, my body, my thoughts, Cooklet Delph, melts into a beige blur around me. A movement on the periphery breaks the powerful spell of Will's gun. Is it Ro? I dare to look away for an instant, hoping this is all some really sick joke, but 3 more men step into the clearing. Ro's 2 other brothers both hold guns pointed at me, although they are somehow less menacing. Into the front of the scene steps Mr. Torrey. His face is stern, but I catch a softness in his eye that gives me hope. He pushes his arm down over Will's gun and steps in between his son and me. The power in that gentle movement is formidable. "Go home, Emmett," he says. "For all our sakes, go home." I stare at Mr. Torrey for a moment, trying to find something to say that might touch that soft spot I see in him. But I've seen this man birth a calf, coaxing the cow with gentle words and easing the newborn out onto the floor of the barn, and I know he's taken his gun to that same cow when she's become too sick to produce. This is not a sentimental man. This is a gentleman who will do what needs to be done, and what needs to be done right now is to get this risky quarantine breaker back where she belongs. He will do it with kindness if he can, but at the end of the day, it will be done. I can't look at him any longer. I can't look at his family, and I can't look over the 3 Torrey brothers without seeing the 4th one who is missing. In that moment, my situation becomes clear. I have no allies beyond the quarantine. There may be people who care what happens to me, but they care what happens to me within the village. Out here, I will not find any friends. I turn and splash back through the river before the guard returns. I do not look back at the Torreys. I do not give them the pleasure of knowing I am beaten.
Oh, Ro, he's such a bad boy, and didn't we all know he'd let Em down sooner or later? Too bad she had to find out the hard way. Ro is one of the few characters that have been part of the story from the first draft. Over time, his character morphed from the sweet, romantic love interest I first envisioned to this bad boy persona. A key moment in his evolution came from another writing prompt. It was, he keeps his weed behind a Jimi Hendrix poster. From that came a scene in Ro's bedroom and a glimpse into the Torrey family household. That scene never made it into the book, but it set up Ro as a bad boy and someone who would cause Em trouble. He may possibly have been very slightly based on someone I once knew, but I know you wouldn't be interested in that story. So moving swiftly on, I'd love to ask for your help this week. I want to make this show the best it can be and something you look forward to listening to each week. I've created a super short questionnaire about which aspects of the podcast you most enjoy and what else you'd like to see included. I promise you, this isn't one of those surveys that claims it will only take you 10 minutes then has 22 pages of questions. This one has only 5 quick questions and a chance for you to add your thoughts, suggest topics, or add questions I haven't answered in the show. You can find a link to the survey in the show notes below. I'd be so pleased if you could spare a couple of minutes to help me improve this series. The podcast also finally has its own page on my website where you can find all the episodes so far. You can find that and more about my work at lisamantefield.com. Until next week, stay safe. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Smallest Thing. To make sure you don't miss next week's episode, you can subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more. If you'd like to support the show, please leave a review and share this series with others you think might enjoy it. If you're on Instagram, tag me there at lisamantefield_, or follow me on Facebook at author Lisa Mantefield and Twitter at lisamantefield. My newsletter subscribers are always the first to know about my news, events, upcoming releases, giveaways, and more. Sign up for monthly delivery at lisamantefield.com/subscribe and get your complimentary copy of Love, Loss and Letting Go, 3 of my short stories. Thanks to Justin Joseph for producing and editing this show, and to Ketsa.uk for the music. That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening.